You mentioned that the mind has millions of rooms, which I found to be really interesting and resonated with me. You seem to be someone that has explored more of those rooms than most others.
Centers of memory, centers of imagination, centers of right perception, centers of perversion, and centers of sleep. If you practice classical yoga, these 5 dimensions will be distinctly separate in your experience. Classical yoga is very focused on separating these things. If you separate these things, you can become what is called as an avadhani. If you can perform 10 types of actions, you're called a dashavadhani. If you can do 100 types of actions, you're called a shatavadhani. If you can do 1,000 types of actions, you're called a sahasravadhani. Sahasravadhanis have been very rare. People say that Agstya Muni was a sahasravadhani, that means he could do 1,008 things at the same time. See, it's been discovered, or we have observed, that in our brain there are millions of cannabinoid receptors. So what does this mean? Lots of speculation went on. So naturally, people who are on the dope, they said, this means everybody must smoke, or this means anthropologically all of us, all human beings at some time were smokers. Then they came up with this, that these cannabinoid receptors are there because the body is supposed to produce this. The brain carries millions of receptors and the body is supposed to produce the endocannabinoids. So, this production, it can be either on or off depending upon how you have kept yourself. That within yourself you can generate a chemistry which keeps you always blissful. But the most important aspect of it is, when it comes from outside, it keeps you… maybe it makes you blissful for a brief amount of time, but it makes you unaware. When it comes from within, it keeps you blissful and makes you super aware, which is the important thing. So this is not about trying to become some kind of a superhuman being. This is about realizing being human itself is super. And once you are blissful by your own nature, you always see that your life is super. It doesn't matter, some situations in our life go well, some don't go well, some happen our way, some don't happen our way, but this one life should be always happening our way.
Sadhguru, John Sviokla, lovely to be with you. I love your work. In a somewhat related vein, what do you think of the role of psychedelics in terms of, showing things that you normally don't see in normal life? Are they detrimental for the reasons you just said, or useful on a path?
See, the nature of human mind is such, let's look at it this way, it's a building of million rooms. Most people who live normal life may explore 5, 10 of those rooms, that's all. The million rooms are just there, unused. So once in a way, if you forcefully enter those rooms by using a chemical or something else, sometimes it can happen because of injury, sometimes it can happen because of shock, that people enter other spaces of their minds, which they can't believe it is their mind because it looks like a whole new world. It is just like if you had, let's say, if you did not have eyes to see, if you open your eyes, suddenly it's a whole new world. So just like that, if you open your eyes to certain things, it looks like a whole new world. No, it's the same good old world, but it has so many dimensions, and human mind, in its evolutionary process, have gathered so many rooms to it that most of the rooms are not explored. So what is the purpose of this? The purpose of this is this: if our focus is only on our survival process, if we are constantly activating our survival instinct, then the number of rooms that you explore in your mind will become very limited. If our focus and our attitude is not about survival, because survival essentially means we want to build a wall of protection around ourselves. Well, you see all the creatures are always trying to create boundaries. That comes from our evolutionary memory that we want to survive, and surviving is a very important process. If we don't survive, then what next? There's nothing else. So we must survive. But is it necessary that your survival instinct is always on? If you are a wild creature, yes, it must be always on. But we evolved to this point where our cerebral cortex opened up, blossomed into this possibility, where once you've become a human being, your survival doesn't fulfill you anymore. In the sense, for example, for all the other creatures, if their stomach becomes full, their life is settled. But for a human being, if stomach is empty, there's only one problem. If stomach becomes full, there are 100 problems. This is the nature of a human being. Because for a human being, life does not end with fulfillment of survival requirements. In fact, life begins only after survival is taken care of. This is the nature of a human being. And no matter where you are, in what position you are in your life, you want to be something more than who you are right now. If that something more happens tomorrow morning, once again you want to be something more. So something more, something more, something more goes on. If I make you the CEO of one galaxy, you will say, I want to… what about the other galaxies? So, this is how human nature is, it wants to expand in a limitless way. When we say expand in a limitless way, we want to expand into our infinite nature. So can anybody count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and get to infinite nature? No, that's never going to happen. So the important thing is to be able to distinguish between our survival instinct and longing to expand. Our longing to expand infinitely is finding a constipated expression, which we call as ambition or, desires and things like that. Essentially, it is a very small expression of this longing to expand. This longing to expand, if you make it a conscious process within you, then you will see your survival instinct will come down to its minimum levels. When that happens, your mind opens up to various possibilities. In many ways, this is what these chemicals are doing. It puts down your survival instinct to such a level. There have been cases people have left off mountain peaks, tall buildings and things like that, because their survival instinct is gone. They cannot even understand that if I fall off this, this is going to end my life. So because survival instinct has come down forcefully, not consciously. So consciously producing these experiences from within and forcefully doing it from outside, these are two different things. Here and there, somebody might have felt that because something opened up, they benefited from that, but you look at the larger consequence of such experiences, most of the time it's left people either frustrated or disturbed or imbalanced. Very, very few people can really claim they have benefited from that.
You mentioned that the mind has millions of rooms, which I found to be really interesting and resonated with me. You seem to be someone that has explored more of those rooms than most others. Can you talk about some of the rooms you explored that others may not know about?
Well, I have this reputation of being logically correct. Don't try to take it away from me now. Because, see, what you call as logic, which is very important, it is like the foundation. If you don't build a solid foundation, then you can't build anything else on top of it. But you need a solid foundation. This is what is wrong with a whole lot of people who think they are into mysticism or occult or spirituality, that they don't have a solid logical foundation, they become hallucinatory. And if you believe hallucination is an exploration, no, it is not. Hallucination is your attempt to cross the line of sanity, and you may succeed, that is the whole problem. So, logic is the foundation. but we cannot live in the foundations. Well, of course, in United States, if you live in the foundation, it's called basement, but in the rest of the world, it's called a dungeon. So you can't live in the foundations, you have to build a superstructure. So there is logic, but on the surface of life, if you look at it, everything is logical, everything falls into logical patterns. But if you look at life little more profoundly, then you find nothing subscribes to logic. Everything, has a magical element to it. I'm using logic, magic as a thing. Let's say anything that's not logical is magical. If something happens here which you cannot logically figure, generally you would think it's magical. So there are millions of spaces in your mind which are magical in nature. But now we are speaking. When you speak, you will use a language. When you use a language, it has to be logically correct. If I say something illogical, you will think I've gone crazy. So I will not take that risk right now. You come if you want to explore, we can set you up on something. If you look at the evolutionary dimension of life upon this planet, why a human being is dominating this world, though physically we are weaker than many other creatures on the planet, is simply because in some way we have become more competent than others. So the competence of being human is greatly reduced when there is no clear distinction between what is memory, what is imagination, what is sleep, what is wakefulness. There are 5 major points of receptivity in one's mind. These are centers of memory, centers of imagination, centers of right perception, centers of perversion, and centers of sleep. If you practice classical yoga, these 5 dimensions will be distinctly separate in your experience. If it is not separate, what happens to you is, when you want to remember something, your imagination plays havoc with your memory. When you want to imagine something, your memory will constrain you from really proper dimension of imagination. When you want to sleep, you will have dreams. When you want to be awake, you will fall asleep. This causes a whole lot of confusion and inefficiency of life. I'm not talking about you being efficient in your profession or in your office or wherever else. That also, yes, in that way also it manifests, but more than that, inefficiency of life. When I say inefficiency of life, this life will not function with the effervescence and exuberance and exploration that life is, that it can explore many dimensions within itself. This possibility is greatly reduced simply because this mix-up has happened in people's experience of life. Classical yoga is very, very focused on separating these things. If you separate these things, you can become what is called as an avadhani. In ancient times, there were many people, today there are a few. Some of them are called ashtavadhanis, which means they have 8 types, 8 capabilities. That is, at a single moment, at a given moment, they can perform 8 different actions. Like they can compose poetry, at the same time, they can do a very complex mathematical problem, at the same time, they can smell perfumes and decide which is which, at the same time, they can taste many things and say whatever they have to say about it, at the same time, they can do many things like concerning with all the 5 senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching. Many actions they can perform at the same given time. 8 type of actions, if you can perform you are called an Ashtavadani. If you can perform 10 types of actions, you are called a Dashavadani. If you can do 100 types of actions, you're called a Shatavadani. If you can do 1,000 types of actions, you're called a Sahasravadani. Sahasravadanis have been very, very rare. People say that Agstya Muni was a Sahasravadani, that means he could do 1,008 things at the same time. So, these Avadanis are not just legend, there have been many in the past which are well-recorded incidents. Vidyapati in Andhra Pradesh was a Dashavadani. Through him, an entire culture of Dashavadanis developed in Andhra Pradesh. Even today in the villages of Andhra Pradesh, there are Ashtavadanis and Dashavadanis in quite a good number. Siddhachandra was a Shatavadani. He performed 100 types of actions under the scrutiny of Akbar's court, the Emperor Akbar's court. And he was honored for this and given the title of Shatavadani because he performed 100 functions. And in modern times, there have been people who have performed 100 different actions, like Ravichandra Bai, who was a Gujarati Jain, who is a Shatavadani. Tirukural Ramakanaga Subramaniam was Shodasavadani, that means he performed 16 actions at a time. These are all documented incidents, but there are many others who come from certain tribes who've been doing this. It used to be a common thing in India that people would come and set up a small situation in the village where a few hundred people gather and they would perform many actions at the same time which look quite miraculous. But this is just to demonstrate the capacity of human memory, because human memory is not limited to articulate memory that we're talking about. Articulate memory is just a thin layer, the rest is a profound dimension. Our body carries 1,000,000,000,000 times more memory than what you can articulate in your mind. Today, there are many modern scientists, unfortunately, arguing that human brain is not capable of doing two things at the same time. You can do it best only if you do one thing at a time. I am a living example that they're all wrong. I have 12, 14 tracks running in my mind all the time. Do I look distracted, disturbed or stressed because of that? No. You can perform any number of things because of this. It is not even that you have to consciously pay attention to it. If you open up a certain track and leave it, it goes on by itself. This is the nature of human intelligence. You are not sitting here and conducting your renal functions or your liver functions or your spleen working or not. You're not doing this. Aren't all these many things happening at the same time? Isn't there an intelligence within us which is capable of doing all these things? It is just that most human beings are understanding human intelligence as just as intellect. Intellect is only the surface aspect, it is a veneer in the huge volume of intelligence that makes us who we are, because we are made from within. All the intelligence that is needed to create this body, to create this life is intrinsic to us. It is not something that happens from outside. It is intrinsic to us. It is just a question of access. If you want a living intelligence, if you want to exist as a living intelligence, one thing you should not do is, you never ever form an opinion about anything. That means you're always an active intelligence, you're looking at everything the way it is. An opinion means you have given up your ability to experience, you have become opinionated or An impression of the past is overruling the reality of what is there right now. This is what an opinion is. But unfortunately, we have created societies where unless you have an opinion, you're considered dumb or stupid because you have no opinion. But that's the smartest thing you can do, that is the most intelligent thing you can do, is that you did not subscribe to any opinion. You're willing to look at everything just the way it is.